To Shubhamangala session. So, wishing all of you who are present here a happy Bhisma Panchak. Since today, from today, since Bhisma Panchak is starting, so on the all auspicious occasion of Bhishma Panchak, I would, for my personal purification, I would like to glorify Bhishma Dev. So we will try and discuss um, as to what are the glories of Bhishma Dev and what lessons can we his devotees draw from the life of Bhishma Pitamaha. So before I begin, I would like to offer my prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam सावधूतं परिजन सहितं श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगण ललित श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरि प्रिय वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिंधुभ्यैव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते जय पताक स्वामी नित्य नामे नमो आचार्य पदाय निताय कृपा प्रदायिने गौर कथा धामदाय नगर ग्राम तारिणे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नित्य नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे. So Hare Krishna. So we all know how Bhishma Pitama is such a glorious character in the entire Mahabharata. So Bhishma Pitama and we also know we have learned it from Srimad Bhagavatam and also from various authorized sources and from the Guru Parampara that how Bhishma Pitama is one among the 12 Mahajans. So where we have Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Shiva. So all of the in the list of the Mahajans, we even have Bhishma Pitama included. So if Bhishma Pitama is included in the list of 12 Mahajans, we can understand what is the glorious position of Bhishma Dev. So before I begin glorifying Bhishma Dev, we'll just go back to Mahabharata and see how Bhishma Pitama has got his name as Bhishma Dev. So we all know as to how Bhishma Pitama is the son of King Shantanu and Ganga when they were present in the heavenly planets and by the curse of Lord Brahma, which is another beautiful pastime. So in the interest of time, we'll just just try and focus on as to how how they came down to the earth and how Bhishma Pitama was born. So has Brahma cursed them, and as a result of the same, King Shantanu and Ganga Devi, they come down to the earthly planet, and when it was because of as there was a yagna that Brahma had arranged in the spiritual in the heavenly planets, and he had invited both King Shantanu and Ganga Devi there, and they happened to have attraction towards each other, and Brahma got very angry on the same thing, and as a result of it he cursed both of them to come down to the earthly planet. And fulfill their material desires, and after a certain period of time they can come back and restore their positions in the heavenly planets. So with the same, they were cursed by Brahma, and they came down as King Shantanu and Ganga Devi. And when they were in the earthly planet, the same way King Shantanu gets attracted to Ganga Devi, and at once he asks Ganga Devi to marry him, and Ganga Devi agrees for the proposal, but she places a condition telling that as to how King Shantanu should never question Ganga for any of the acts she does, and he should never speak to her in a harsh way. So King Shantanu was, all attracted by the beautiful feature of Ganga Devi, and he agrees to it without a second thought. And after agreeing, they get married, and after marriage, Ganga Devi starts begetting children, and every child she begets, we know how she gives off the she goes and takes the baby, and she puts it in the flowing Ganga. So it happens up to seven baby children who are born to Shantanu and Ganga Devi. They are all given as a sacrifice by Ganga Devi, and Shantanu all this while, because he had made a promise, so he was silent for the entire time. And when the eighth child was born, and when Ganga was about to go and take this child also and put it in Ganga, and that is when Shantanu got all angry, and he's uh, you know yelled at Ganga Devi, and Ganga Devi tells King Shantanu that whatever promise he had made to her at the time of the proposal of marriage, he has broken it. And Ganga Devi tells King Shantanu that she will not stay with King Shantanu, and she would take even the eighth child along with her. And this eighth child is Bhishma Dev. So his name would be Devavrat, because he was blessed by all the devatas, and because of the blessings of all the devatas, Devavrat would have acquired all the wonderful characteristics of all the devatas, and he would be all powerful. So how is that from Devavrat he became Bhishma Dev? Is that at the age of 32, when Devavrat turns 32 years, Ganga Devi, she comes, and she hands over Bhishma Dev to King Shantanu, and she tells him that he has been trained with all the requirements that a Kshatriya is required to have, and now you can take care of him. And because Shantanu hadn't seen Devavrat for such a long time period, he becomes very happy looking at Devavrat, and he takes him to the kingdom, introduces Devavrat to all his ministers in the court, and during this period, King Shantanu gets attracted to Satyavati. She is a fisherman's daughter, so her father would be a fisherman, and she would be the fisherman's daughter, and she's so beautiful that King Shantanu, he gets attracted to her, and he again proposes Satyavati for marriage. And Satyavati, she also places certain conditions, and she tells that only Satyavati's children should become the king of Hastinapur. So hearing to this, King Shantanu is all broken down, because he already has a son who is Devavrat, and he's already announced that he is the next king and he's going to take over the throne. But now it's all brand new information for Shantanu, and it is so difficult for him to even digest the fact that Bhishma Dev cannot take up the throne. So he's all disappointed, and he goes back to his kingdom. And Devavrat sees that how upset his father is, and he tries to find out what is the reason. And he comes to know that that his father wants to marry Satyavati, and he is unable to fulfill the conditions she has laid down for the marriage. And he immediately goes to Satyavati, and he asks her, why do you don't want to marry my father? And then she tells that she is insecure, that because she is not one among that how would her children be treated if she becomes the queen. And if she wants her sons only to claim over the throne. And if King Shantanu cannot fulfill her conditions, then she tells Devavrat that she cannot marry him. And at that point of time, Devavrat, he promises to Satyavati, telling that, he promises to Satyavati that Satyavati's children will they will take over the throne. And even after a promise made by Devavrat, Satyavati is not still satisfied. She and her father, both of them, are not satisfied. And then that is when Bhishma Dev tells that if only Bhishma Dev gets married, he tells that only if I get married, that is when I am going to have children, and that is when Devavrat's children will take over the throne. And he promises at that moment, telling that he will never get married, and he will never enter into the grihastha life, and he'll remain Naishtaka Brahmachari for the entire of his life. And he also promises, telling that he will never desire for the throne, and he will always serve the children of Satyavati. So hearing to all of this, all the demigods, they start telling Bhishana, Bhishana, Bhishana. And Bhishana in Sanskrit means it's terrific. I mean, how could somebody make such a promise even without a second thought? Devavrat made this promise to Satyavati without, thinking what could be his, will he be able to, take up all the promise he has made? So it was such a difficult thing. Even Brahmanas would think twice, is what I was hearing from a senior Vaishnava. He was telling even Brahmanas wouldn't make such a promise, but Bhishma Dev, being a Kshatriya, he made this promise that he would remain as a Naishtaka Brahmachari for entire of his life, and he served so many generations. And when all the demigods heard this, they started showering flowers with, utmost respect to Bhishma Dev, and that is how from Devavrat he became Bhishma Dev. And he became Bhishma Dev, and Bhishma Dev went back to the kingdom, and he told his father Shantanu that Satyavati has agreed to marry you, father. And he comes to know that how such a big sacrifice Bhishma Dev has made just for his father. So in the history, we can see that always father makes sacrifice for the benefit of their children, for the happiness of children. And in the entire history, it was the first time that Bhishma Dev, that a son has made sacrifice for the pleasure of his father. And with all that love and affection towards Bhishma Dev, King Shantanu grants him a boon, telling that because you have made such a big sacrifice for me, and you've given up given up all your priorities, and you've made such a big sacrifice for me, Bhishma. So I grant you the desire of Icha Marana. So King Shantanu gives Bhishma Dev a boon of leaving his body whenever he desires to do so. So nothing in this entire universe could harm Bhishma Dev, and has the and since it was the boon given by his father, since he had so much of love and affection towards Bhishma, so Bhishma accepts the boon of his father, and that is how Bhishma Devavrat becomes Bhishma Dev, and he got this boon of Icha Maran. So this is how Bhishma Dev has got his name. And moving on with the glories of Bhishma Dev, so we can see as to how in the pastime that I mentioned, how Bhishma Dev he did not think twice, to sacrifice his comfort zone, and he could have, enjoyed the throne. He could have thought that, he should become the king of Hastinapur, but, he sacrificed all of it, and he served the Pandavas and the Kauravas just like a menial servant, keeping aside all his desires. So similarly, we can see the same thing in Srila Prabhupada, and even in our Guru Maharaj's life, as to how Srila Prabhupada, if he had a comfortable life at Vrindavan, having beautiful darshan of Radha Damodar, so he could have led a peaceful life. What was the necessity of for Prabhupada to, at the age of 70, to go around the globe and give Krishna prema? So it is his compassionate quality, as to how we see how Bhishma Dev was so compassionate on his father, because he was personally hurt. So even similarly, Srila Prabhupada, he also was so compassionate on all the jivatmas, that he left his comfort zone, that was Vrindavan, and he went around the globe distributing the love of Godhead to all the living entities. So moving on to the next glory of Bhishma Dev, is how Bhishma Dev was so surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and how simple Bhishma Dev was. So the definition of being simple is not, dressing simple or eating simple. So I was hearing that one of the Vaishnavas, he was mentioning as to how being simple means, doing everything that the Lord wants us to do. So living out our comfort zone and serving the Lord the way the Lord wants us to serve. So Bhishma Dev, he had so much of love on Pandavas. Even during the war of Kurukshetra, he was very hesitant to fight against the Pandavas, but he knew that this was the plan of the Supreme Lord, and if the Supreme Lord wants me to fight against the Pandavas, then I will do it. It just because of this particular act, wherein Bhishma Dev took the side of the Kauravas, and he fought against Pandavas, it made him look as a bad person for generations to come. So many of the generations have read Mahabharata, and when Bhishma Dev took the side of the Kauravas, and he was fighting against the Pandavas, everybody thought, why did Bhishma Dev do this? He was in the bad books of all the people, but he knew, even if he was in the bad books of all the other people, but if the Supreme Lord is being pleased by this act of Bhishma Dev, being on the other side and fighting against Pandavas, then why not I do it? So we as devotees, what can we learn from the life of Bhishma Dev is that he had surrendered his entire life for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So I was hearing this one particular story as to how from Amarendra Prabhu, as to how there was one devotee, and he had moved he had because he was working at USA, and because of some reason he had to go to some place. I don't remember the name of the place, so he had to shift himself to that place. And when he shifted himself to that place due to the requirement of his work, and he happened to see that there was no devotees association for him, and he had Gauranitai deities with him. And at once his wife also told, and it is not that he moved with his family. So this Prabhuji, he had moved, he alone had shifted himself due to his work requirement, and he had carried his Gauranitai deities. And the moment he saw that there is no devotees association, there is no Bhakti Vriksha going on, there is no ISKCON temple, he was bewildered for a minute. And he informed his family, and his wife at once said that, with this job, maybe you can look for another one. So how will you survive without a devotees association? And he was, thinking on the same thing. And for once he thought, if Gaur Nitai have come here, then they have their own plan. So he left it. He was completely surrendered unto the lotus feet of Gaurnitai, and he told Gaurnitai that, the lordships you do as you desire. And he started continuing with the same job, and he started working there. And once at his office, it so happened that, he came and he preached to one of his staff member and one of his colleague. And the colleague, he was all happy hearing hearing something new, because in the Western country they've never heard the philosophy that is being presented in India. And he told this particular Prabhuji that, why don't you send a mass mail to everybody, and whoever is interested, they'll turn up to your house. So this Prabhuji, he sent a mass mail to all the colleagues, and to his wonder, all the people whom he had mailed had turned up to his house for that particular day's Bhakti Vriksha. And this kept on happening for months together and years to come. And now, where there was no devotees association, and there was no Bhakti Vriksha, or no center of ISKCON, and now has and when he started preaching, and as the congregation spread, they've set up a separate bhakti center in that place. And they're expanding immensely, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had preached, I mean, he had predicted that his name will the holy names of the Lord will spread in every town and village. And similar to the prediction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we can see from, from a place which had no association of devotees, had turned up into such a wonderful place. So this what I was trying to emphasize is, if this particular devotee, if you would have thought that, what will I do, and what can I do? I'll just go back, find a place, find a workplace where in it is favorable for my Krishna consciousness. Then in that situation, it would be impossible for a bhakti center to come there. So similarly, we can see as to how, Bhishma Dev did not think, my comforts. Pandavas were such exalted Vaishnavas. He could have just thought, if I stay with Pandavas, then I'll get even devotees association. We can discuss Krishna Katha for all the time to come. But Bhishma Dev did not do that. He thought that, if I fight against the Pandavas, and if that is pleasing the Lord, then why not I do it? So we as devotees can learn that we have to always try to serve the Supreme Lord, and try to come out of the comfort zone that we are all put in, and try to serve the Supreme Lord in the way that is pleasing the Supreme Lord. And it could be I'm for that, it could we had to why not we go beyond any why not we go beyond our capacity to serve the Lord, if that is pleasing the Supreme Lord. So first thing that we learned is the sacrifice that Bhishma Dev made, so that his father could be happy with it. And the second thing is how he always, was surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, and he always worked for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And last lesson that we can draw from the life of Bhishma Dev is that it has been only some days back we had celebrated Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day, and we were discussing as to how Srila Prabhupada taught us the art of dying. So we can see as to how even Bhishma Dev, it is this is what Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada has taken up. He has led his life as per the scriptures, as per Srimad Bhagavatam. So from the scriptures pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, we can see as to how Bhishma Dev, how he teaches us the art of dying. So we know he was on the bed of arrows for such a long time period, and we know as to how Bhishma Dev left his body. His only desire was to have the darshan of that beautiful darshan of Shyam Sundar and leave his body. So I was hearing from Amarendra Prabhu, and he was mentioning when Bhishma Dev was on this bed of arrows and he was preparing himself to leave his body, at that particular period, all the rishis and all the great saints were coming to have darshan of Bhishma Dev. And Bhishma Dev is on that bed of arrow, and he is hardly able to move. So, but even in that situation, Amarendra Prabhu was explaining as to how he could move only his head. So with only his movement of his head and his eyes, he used to always welcome those Vaishnavas or the great saints who used to come to have his darshan with a big smile and a pleasant face. So we can learn even at the moment of quitting his body, Bhishma Dev followed that Vaishnava etiquette of receiving a Vaishnava. So even Srila Prabhupada, when people used to come to have his darshan when he was about to leave his body, Srila Prabhupada used to, in such a condition, it's such a miserable condition. He's all, he's going through so much of suffering at the time of death. In spite of that, people who used to come to see Srila Prabhupada, the devotees, he used to ask the devotees, so how are you? And how is the Krishna conscious at your place going? Are the devotees chanting? Are the devotees at your ISKCON center happy? And what are your plans for expanding the movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So we can understand that all these people, they are not ordinary men. They are empowered by the Supreme Lord. They've come down to teach us how to lead our lives as a Vaishnava. So we can see as to how Bhishma Dev, even in that situation, because it's so painful for at the time of death, it is just such a painful situation for somebody to leave their body. Even in such a painful situation, Bhishma Dev made it a point that he receives all the Vaishnavas in the right etiquette, because Krishna himself has shown it. When Yudhishthira Maharaj was built all new palace, and all of them, all the demigods and everybody were invited for the inauguration, and the Lord comes and asks Yudhishthira Maharaj, how can I serve? And Yudhishthira Maharaj tells the Supreme Lord that you don't have to serve, and you just have to receive the service of the others. Lord, so you don't have to serve. And Lord tells Yudhishthir that, since you are not giving me any service, thereby I take up the service of washing the lotus feet of all the Vaishnavas who come for this yagna. And we can see as to how Krishna washed the legs of all the Vaishnavas who visited, and he sprinkled the water on his head. So similarly, even though Bhishma Dev was in that helpless situation, he made his best efforts to receive the Vaishnava in the best possible manner. So we as devotees, we can, learn from Bhishma Dev the right etiquette to receive Vaishnava. So we could, we could have been having a bad day, or it could be anything. But as Vaishnavas, it is our responsibility to respect another Vaishnava and receive him with the utmost respect and care. So, during when Bhishma Dev was on his deathbed, Karna comes and he breaks out to Bhishma Dev, telling that you are such an exalted personality, Bhishma Pitama, but all my life I failed to realize it. And at this point of time, I would like to make a promise that I would I would dedicate my entire life at your lotus feet. So, Karna, at that point of time, he comes to Bhishma Dev when he is about to leave his body. That is when Karna comes, and he realizes that whatever he was doing was wrong, and he asks for forgiveness for Bhishma Dev. But in the entire Mahabharata, we can see as to how Bhishma Dev had tried his best to, mold the characters of all the Kauravas, including Karna. But they never realized the importance of what the words of Bhishma Dev. But it is only at the point of death, when Bhishma Dev was about to leave his body, that is when Karna realizes that what the importance of such an exalted personality as Bhishma Dev. So we as devotees, we are also making the same mistake. When our Guru Maharaj, when we have the books of Srila Prabhupada, when Srila Prabhupada is telling that I am giving you association through my books, we are, neglecting to read it. We think that we are going to Srila Prabhupada in one of his lecture. He tells that we are in that misconception that we are going to live forever. But that, at least Parikshit Maharaj, he had a notice of 7 days time period for his death, but we do not know when we are going to die. But we are in this misconception that we are going to live forever, and we are not making the proper utilization of all that Srila Prabhupada he sacrificed for us, because Srila Prabhupada did not know who we were, and he did so much for us. And what are we doing for Srila Prabhupada? How are we showing our gratitude to such exalted acharyas in the parampara? We aren't doing anything. We are all, in the position of Karna and making the same mistake that Karna made. So it is time that we realize the importance of Gurudev in our life, and all the vows we have made during the initiation, we make sure that we fulfill it. And let's not regret when Guru Maharaj leaves this material world and he returns to the spiritual world. That is not when we weep and cry that I wish I would have served you, Gurudev, to the best of my capacity. It is that we have to take care of the point that we serve Guru Maharaj and his mission of spreading the name of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in every town and village when he is present. So we should not become Karna and realize when our spiritual masters leave the material world. So we have to try and make the best utilization of the situation, and try and serve Guru Maharaj when he is on this material planet, and take his association as much as possible. So I'll just sum up. So we discussed as to how the sacrifice that Bhishma Dev made, how he served the Supreme Lord and he taught us the art of dying and how we have to serve the spiritual master when he is on this planet. So I thank Mathurapati Prabhu and Parabhakti Mataji for giving me this chance for glorifying Bhishma Dev for my personal purification. So, and all the Vaishnavas for their patient hearing. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.